All right, now this video we're going to look at how to calculate quartiles. Now quartiles are values that split our data into 25% portions. So if you remember from the before, the median splits our data in half so that we have 50% below and 50% above. So now what we're going to do is we're going to find quartiles, which is going to take each of those 50% above and below the mean and split them in half again so that we have 4 sections of 25% of the data. So this is the data set from your notes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go find the median of this data set. So this will be some good review. So remember, once you have your data set in, you're going to go to Data, and then Data Analysis, Descriptive Statistics. We want to make our input range. If you have something in there, clear it out. And I'm going to highlight all of the numbers. And then your output range is where do you want the data to, or where do you want these summary statistics to show up? So I want them right here in C1. And then you want to make sure that this checkbox here for summary statistics is checked. I haven't closed Excel since the last time I did this, which is why it remembered the information from before. If you close Excel in between, the input range, the output range, and the summary statistics, that'll all be blank. So you'll have to go in and put those in. So I'm going to hit OK. And here we go. So this data set has a mean of 73 and a median of 77. So I don't really care about the mean right now. The only thing I care about is this median, this 77. So I'm going to go ahead and bold him. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my data and I'm going to find the number 77. Now the nice thing about this data set is there are 13 data values, which means the median is a single value itself. It's not the average of the two middle data values. Did I say this was an even? It's an odd number of data values. It's odd. 13 is an odd number. There are 13 data values, so our median is one of the data values. And in this case, it is this guy, 77. So again, I'm going to bold him. I'm going to type median next to him, just so I can see that. So now what I'm going to do, the tricky thing with Excel is unfortunately, there is a built-in quartiles function, but it does not calculate quartiles in the statistical sense. It calculates them using a business statistics method, which is not really what we're going to be doing here. We want to make sure that we're calculating these quartiles using the statistical approach, not the business stat approach. So what I'm going to do to find the first quartile, which is the number that's going to take everything less than the mean and split it in half, the median. So here's our median here at 77. I'm going to click and highlight all of the numbers that are less than that. And notice my data set is in order from the start. We want to make sure that our data is in order when we do this. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this data set. I'm just going to pick a random row over here off to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it in. So now I have just the numbers that were less than the median over here in this new F row. So now the first quartile is the median of all of the numbers that were less than the median. So I'm going to calculate another median. But since the only thing I actually care about is the median, I don't care about all this other stuff that we see, I'm going to show you guys a shortcut to finding this median. If I go into an empty box, which I'm just going to go into this first one up here, I can type equals and then the word median, and I'm going to open parentheses. I'm going to click and highlight my data, and then I'm going to hit enter. So you type equal sign, median, open parentheses, highlight your data, and then hit enter. This 62.5 is the middle of this data set of 6 numbers. So notice we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 62.5 would go in right here, which would cut this guy in half. So 62.5 is going to be our first quartile. So I'm going to label that under here, Q1 equals 62.5. There we go. So now we're going to do the same thing with all of the numbers that were bigger than the median. So I'm going to highlight them, copy and paste them into a new row or a new column, and I'm going to find the median of these numbers. Now you could probably find this in your head pretty quickly, but if you have a really large data set, it could be kind of tricky to figure out what the middle of those numbers are. So again, I did equals median. Let me do that one more time. Equals median, open parenthesis, and then I click and highlight on the data that I want to find the median for. Once I have that, I'm going to hit enter, and the result from that is my third quartile, my Q3. So now I have three numbers that have split my data set into quarters. So if we go through and look, let's see, how do I want to do this? Well, the 62.5 would fall in between these two numbers. So from 62.5 and up, we have three numbers. From 62.5 up to the median, we have three numbers. Then we have our median. Then we have three numbers between the median and the Q3 that we found over here, the 90.5. And then we have three numbers bigger than Q3. So four sections, each containing three numbers. And there's a really nice diagram of that in your notes so you guys can see that. Okay, so this is how we calculate those quartiles in Excel. So now you might be asking, well, this was a great example because it showed us the median was exactly 77. But what if we have an even number of data values? Like this guy right here. This is the same data set, but I left out that 0 at the beginning. Because when I look at these numbers, I think, oh, this might be like a test score. And that 0 might be someone who didn't take it. Well, typically for me, when I'm calculating your guys' medians and means and all that stuff for exams, if anyone didn't take it, I don't calculate them as part of that. So I'm going to say, okay, this one, I'm not going to calculate the 0 as part of this. Okay, so we have our data set. It's got 12 numbers, so an even number of values. We can see that looking off to the left here. It starts at 1 and goes down to 12, so that shows us we have 12 numbers. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find the median of this. Now I could go through the data analysis step over here like we did before, but I know the only thing I care about is the median. So I'm going to go ahead and do equals median, open parentheses, and I'm going to highlight everything. And then I'm going to hit enter. So 79.5. Well, we don't have 79.5 as one of my data values. So for me to figure out where this 79.5 would fall, I'm going to take the number of data values I had and divide it by 2. That's going to tell me the first number that was used to calculate this median. So remember, when you have an even number of data values, the median is the average of the two middle data values. So we have 12 data values here. So I'm going to take 12 and divide it by 2, which tells me that the first number was 6, the sixth position rather, so that's the value 77, and the second one was 82 in the 7th position. These are the two numbers that were added together to find this median of 79.5. So now when we split our data set in half, it's being split in half from the 77 up to the 50 and from the 82 down to the 120. So we want to include the 77 in the lower half because 77 is less than 79.5. And we want the 82 to be part of the upper half because it's bigger than 79.5. Even though these two numbers were used to find the median, they are not the median. So they need to be part of that 50% split. So now I'm going to come up and highlight all of the numbers that are smaller than the median. I'm going to copy them, and I'm going to paste them over here, and then I'm going to find the median. So equals median, parentheses, highlight the numbers, and hit enter. And I get 66. So again, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that tells me that numbers 65 and 67 were added together, then divided by 2, and that's how we got a Q1 of 66. So then I would repeat this with all of the numbers that are bigger than our median. So that's 82 through 120. So I copy and paste them over, equals median, parentheses, highlight, hit enter. 90.5. So we have the same Q3 this time, but all the other numbers changed. So our 90.5 was found by finding the middle of 90 and 91. So we're just repeating this process of, okay, we're going to find the middle of everything first. What is that middle? It's 79.5. Okay, now look at everything smaller than that number. What's the middle of those numbers? That gives us these numbers. And the middle of these numbers is 66. That's our first quartile. Then take all of the numbers that were bigger than that overall middle. That's these numbers. Find the middle of those numbers. That's your third quartile. So this is how we break up an even number of data values. Okay, this trick that I have of looking at how many data values am I looking at and dividing it by 2, that's going to be really helpful if you have a very large data set and you have multiple numbers that repeat over and over again. Which one of those numbers is the median? Well, it's the one that's in whatever position it says it should be. So if I have 50 data values, 50 divided by 2 is 25. So using these numbers here, I could go and find 25, and that would tell me, okay, this guy is the median, or the first of the 2 numbers that were used to find the median. Okay. So now we're going to look at one more thing in this video, and that's the interquartile range. So the interquartile range is the third quartile minus the first quartile. So it lets us know 50% of the data is between this number and this number. So we're going to calculate the IQR for this data set. So our Q3 was 90.5 and our Q1 was 66. So our IQR is going to be 90.5 minus 66, which, I don't know what that is off the top of my head. So I'm going to show you guys how you can use Excel as a calculator real quick. So if I come down here to this empty box here, I can type equals 90.5 minus 66 and hit the enter button. And it's going to do that math for me. So now I click back in this box, I come up to the top, and I can type in 24.5. So the interquartile range, the middle 50% of my data, has a range of 24.5. And that is it for this video.